For the past week, I have been grinding Simulated Universe, and my god, I love the game mode so much. I am aware that the game mode is challenging and that people have been struggling to get past different worlds, so I made a tier list on stream about how good each character is in the Simulated Universe. And this video, I will be explaining my reasoning behind how I rank the characters, and I will not be going over CBT2 characters to prevent spoilers. Starting from the C tier, I put Chinche here because her playstyle is very skill point consuming. Basically how her skill works is she switches tiles in order to get 4 of a kind so she can do AoE damage. The tile thing is pretty RNG and it can take up all the points if you keep getting the wrong tiles. Playing her kit is playing gacha in a gacha game, and I refuse to base my damage off chances. She can still dish out some pretty good damage if you manage to get lucky, and she's not totally unusable. So you can still play her, it's just that putting her on your team might end up giving you a hard time to clear the stage. Herta is in the C tier with Chinche because she simply isn't good against bosses in SU. You can still use her to clear regular enemies as you climb, but when you're up against the powerful bosses in SU, you will have a hard time against them. Most of her damage comes from her follow-up attack, and her follow-up attacks only activate once the boss reaches half health, and it might take you a while to get there, plus the damage will be a bit insignificant if the boss has a lot of health. She shines the brightest when there are more enemies, and when the boss doesn't summon more enemies, she will underperform everyone by a long shot. Overall, Arlen is usable against bosses. His damage can be really solid with the help of some destruction and hunt blessings. His kit relies on him consuming his own HP and deal more damage, and destruction blessings help keep him alive and healthy, so he doesn't get knocked down very easily. As long as you build him with a healer or a powerful shielder, you are able to manage your skill points altogether. Clearing World 3 and 4 with Arlen is most certainly doable. World 6 he struggles a bit more because Kakalia has a lot of damage throughout her 3 phases, and one mistake could knock him down. He's still solid though, so I put him in a B tier. If you run full DLT on Sampo, you will be able to run over a boss fight. Sampo is by far the most powerful DLT character so far, and his DLT can last a while because he's a wind type character. As long as you continue to get Nihility blessings throughout your run, you should have no problem clearing your run. However, if you run full DLT, it can leave you vulnerable if you don't have enough survivability blessings. So make sure you have resources to be able to keep your teammate alive. And yeah, you run Sampo with full DLT, you'll have no problem clearing World 4 and 5. He is a little weak without DLT though, so he stays in the B tier. Ching is great in damage, but he doesn't really contribute to breaking bosses' weaknesses. From World 3 to 6, no final bosses have ice as their weaknesses. There are some may encounter bosses with ice weakness, but that's as much as Ching can contribute to weakness breaking. If you do run Remembrance and the Hunt together, it can help Ching in terms of damage. He's not exactly a candidate I would take him to fight bosses, but I would certainly use him to clear normal enemies faster as I climb the levels. Can never say no to crit rate and crit damage boost on his ult after all. Hook has great break efficiency, and can be able to dish out a lot of damage in World 4 and 6. You're going to want to opt for some blessings that are able to help her with her break efficiency and her break effect, so she can be able to break the enemy's weakness bar faster as well as deal more damage upon it. She is a good unit to take into SU if you have the right blessings, that being the Hunt and the Nihility, and will certainly help you beat certain final bosses. She can also be built like a tank bruiser if you like to build her that way. Giving her some more destruction blessings will certainly make her a bit more oppressive. But yeah, she needs the right blessings, so I put her in B tier. Physical MC is not exactly ideal unless you have some blessings to help them with their damage and their break efficiency, which puts them at B. What matters more is Fire MC. Fire MC essentially creates a shield every time you press skill, and it grants everyone on your team a brief shield so they are able to tank a bit of damage. They are solid at breaking weaknesses once they have 4 stacks after being attacked, and can chunk a bit of weakness out from enemies with fire weakness. Their ult is just as useful as it provides a shield to anyone, as well as deal good damage and break a good amount of weaknesses. They are usable almost everywhere, and they are a solid F2P option, making them an A tier character in SU. Hemeko is a solid character to take into SU. She has great AoE damage from her skill, follow-up attack, and ult. She works the best in World 4, but you can also take her into fighting may encounter bosses as well. Overall, she is a great 5-star to have. Just simply give her some elation blessings and she's able to go off in a battle with some follow-up attacks and deal a bunch of damage. Her follow-up attack can be activated by breaking enemy shield 3 times. And it stacks up to 3 times, so you need to break them 3 times. Which will make them problematic if you don't have the right elements to break the weaknesses. So make sure you have at least a good character that can break weaknesses efficiently, and also make sure you have the right element as well. I previously thought Sushk was only a B tier character, but her damage is unexpectedly solid. She works really well when you're fighting Japard in World 3 and Kafka in World 5, and she's most definitely a good character to take into other boss fights as well. She is the Hunt, meaning she's mostly single target damage, and her skill is able to do quite a bit of break to enemies' weakness. You can actually get some speed when you break an enemy's weakness, and it is one of Sushk's passive, which grants 15.5% for 2 turns. You can also build her with DOT and give her some nihility buffs, giving her more bleed damage when it's applied to bosses and enemies. She gets the A spot. Payload is an amazing support anywhere. She's a very valuable support to pick up because she's the only character so far that grants defense reduction to enemies. Defense reduction is most useful when you're up against a really tanky boss, and you're going to need more damage in order to take them down. Payload in general doesn't need any buffs in SU in order to be good. She's just kind of there as a support to help out the DPS to take down the enemies faster. She has great break with her skill as well, and her technique is just as good. Because if you're able to apply the technique to an enemy before the fight, it lowers the enemy's defense about 20% for 2 turns, putting them at a big disadvantage. So she gets the A spot, but honestly, I would like to put her in S. I put March in A because she is surprisingly good for clearing World 5 of SU. F2P players can run a team consisting of Sushk, Danhen, Natasha, and March, and you'll be able to beat World 5. Let me explain why. March's skill grants a big shield to herself or one of her allies. Whoever got the shield also becomes more likely to be targeted by enemies. You can also unlock a trace talent for that skill where it removes 1 debuff that is cast on an ally, and Kafka's Dominate ability can be cleansed immediately. Not only is the health of the shield big, but it can also cleanse debuff. Now if that one isn't broken, I don't know what else is. Make sure you give her preservation buffs as well, so you can strengthen her shield, and also you have survivability against Kafka. Natasha and Bailu are must-have characters on your team if you want to clear SU worlds safely. The bosses do a lot of damage, and you will not survive without at least someone healing you. Well, I guess if you run Abundance Path Resonance and have some buffs to upgrade the Path Resonance, you might have a slight chance, but it's still safer to have healers on your team that can heal you consistently. The healers becomes monstrously good at healing with Abundance Blessings, and your team would have no problem surviving any lethal attacks by bosses and enemies. They're both in the A tier, because seeing as they're the only 2 healers so far, they're definitely valuable units to invest for the time being. I might move Bailu up to S tier in the future, because her ability to revive at E0 is just so broken. Danhen's potential in SU cannot be ignored. He's certainly a character that shows up when fighting bosses like Svarog and Kafka. He is amazing at breaking weaknesses with his skill and ultimate, and his overall damage can be decent to amazing depending on what kind of buffs you picked up. For the best damage output, you will want to go for the Hunt Blessings, of course. And on top of that, if you're lucky, make sure you pick up the Nihility buff that is Break Efficiency, as that would be an excellent blessings for breaking weaknesses faster. His skill also slows opponents down, which can delay their actions and make them lose a turn. And against a boss like Svarog, who has high speed, and Kafka, who has faster infinite attack scaling, he's a good candidate for beating both. Japard will work on any world and any team, as his primary purpose is keeping the entire team alive with his ultimate. He is an A tier solely because of his solid shielding to all teammates, and his ability to be tanky and slightly efficient to CC enemies with his skill. Like all shielding characters, if you want to build a team with Japard and have a good amount of survivability and damage, make sure you run a preservation path, since it's the path that best suits shielder. Destruction path can also be useful for Japard depending on how you want to build him, but yeah, he's a solid candidate for SU, and he's the main reason I was able to beat World 3 from the start. Clara's kit can be clunky at times, but she has so much potential for beating World 5. She has amazing shielding for her ult, and her follow-up attack can be lethal with some elation buffs added to her. When running her, it is also recommended to run her with March, as March has the ability to provide good amount of shield to Clara, then use Clara's ult to have her be hard focused by enemies. When you fight Kafka, she will barely do any damage to Clara if you picked up some destruction blessings, and the follow-up attacks from Svarog will decimate her easily with the help of some other teammates. Now, up to the S tier, People might disagree with me and say that Servo is only A tier, but holy shit man, she's insane against so many enemies and bosses is not even funny. If you give her blessings from the hunt, she will run over a game instantly. She has solid break efficiency already, and it's also really easy to charge her ultimate. If you get the blessing where it gives Servo another turn when she breaks weaknesses, she will have no problem getting her ultimate really fast. On top of that, if you choose and upgrade the blessing where it allows you to get your ultimate back the moment you defeat an enemy, you literally cannot lose a single fight with her. She's that broken in SU, and therefore I give her S tier. Welt is the only imaginary character so far, and therefore makes him an S for superior pick against bosses like Japart and Kafka. And even some may encounter bosses as well. What stands out to me about Welt is that he has amazing break efficiency, and on top of that, his slowing ability is also insane against different bosses because it actually slows them down so much more compared to other characters. If you obtained Welt from the beginner banner, then it is safe to say you will achieve so much in SU with him. If you give him the hunt and the agility blessings, he will make things so much easier for you. He will work the best in World 3 and 5, but in World 4 and 6, he can also perform really well, which surprised me. Ting Yun is an outstanding support to have on your team. She is an S tier because she literally doesn't even need blessings to be good as well. Her damage buffs from her skill and ultimate is already amazing enough, and on top of that, she can restore a good amount of energy on a teammate's ultimate, which is icing on the cake. She has a bit of damage of her own from her passive, but honestly just focus on the support aspect of her. Ting Yun's passive damage poses little to no impact against bosses in SU, and it's infinitely better to put your DPS damage before hers. Her health is kind of on par with Payload in terms of squishiness, so make sure you do your best to keep her alive so she can continue to provide buffs for you. People might disagree with this one as well, but I doubted Asta's ability when I was playing CVP3, and my god was I happy to be wrong. Her break efficiency is actually amazing in SU when you are dealing with one enemy, and even if there are multiple enemies, she can chunk out a good amount of weakness from each enemy and leave the DPS to finish the job. If you build her speed focus, she will help increase everyone's speed so that your other members will have more actions than usual. If you want to run Asta, make sure your team consists of good break unit, so you'll be able to pick up some agility and hunt blessings at the same time, as both would be good options to go for. Peronia is by far the most powerful support in this game, and for good reasons. 1, she scales off crit damage alone for her ult, and 2, she's able to grant action forward and cleanse to whichever teammate she chooses. If you are able to obtain a curio called Space-Time Prison and increase her Eidolon by 1, she will then have a 50-50 chance to recover a skill point every time she uses ult. The odds are honestly solid, and considering how broken she is, it will definitely make a huge impact during a boss fight. Peronia technically don't really need any blessings to be good, but it would be nice to pick up some crit damage related blessings to help boost her damage. She's a very solid character, and she's able to work on any world you take her to. Sele is the strongest DPS character and by far the most broken and oppressive character to use in SU. And even anywhere actually. She's outstanding in both damage and break efficiency, and her passive is probably the best thing I've ever seen Hoyoverse produce. Every time she's able to defeat an enemy, Sele is able to get another turn and her damage increase for that turn. If you run her with Peronia, it's not even going to be a fair fight. She's solid everywhere, and the hunt blessing makes her even more busted than she already is. If you're able to get the 3-star blessing where she defeats an enemy and her turn resets, she will have a total of 3 turns. On top of that, if you also get the blessing where it advances her turn forward every time she breaks a weakness, she will literally become absolutely unstoppable and dominate the entire fight. It'll literally be reset city until the point where there are no more skill points left for her to do big damage. And even then, if you have enough damage, she will continue to take over. She completely deserves the S tier spot. But yeah, those are my takes on Stario characters in SU. Do you agree or disagree with any of my takes? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give a like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch. Until next time, and signing out.